All right, cool. Welcome everybody to Hackation 2024 in Fort Myers, Florida. Fun fact about me, I'm actually born and raised here in this town. I remember this town well when it was a small town. Now it's quite busy and quite congested. But a little bit about me, I attended a technical institute in the early 2000s and became an engineer for Harley Davidson, Yamaha, and Kawasaki. In this time frame, actually ended up owning my own business during the recession. And I got to travel all over Florida doing this. I went from Miami to Fort Myers to Naples to Orlando. And I attended UCF Cybersecurity School, and we want to fast forward to 2020, and I'm a volunteer for Besides Orlando and an intern with Nave Security. And Nave Security specializes in neurotechnologies. My hobbies outside of computers are I love the outdoors. I love boating, PHI fishing, and taking pictures of wildlife as well. I also have a hobby of growing plants and vegetables of all kinds. So, we all might know what this three-headed dog is, but welcome to Not Yo Mommas Kerberoast. The presentation is going to be about Kerberoasting and Kerberoasting attacks. The overview of this is we're going to talk about Active Directory a little bit. We're going to go into Active Directory basics, the hierarchy of Active Directory. We're going to talk about Kerberoast, the Kerberoast protocol, and the LDAP protocol and its role it plays in Kerberoasting attacks. Okay, we're going to go into Kerberoasting attacks and talk about tools. We're going to try to do a demo and talk about mitigations in the end of this. So, what is Active Directory? Well, the main Active Directory service is Active Directory Domain Services. It is the part of the Windows Server operating system. It stores information about domain members, including devices, users, their credentials, and defines their access rights. The service running this is called your domain controller. Okay? This authenticates using Kerberoasting tickets. A domain controller is the server responsible for managing networks and identity security requests. It acts as the gatekeeper and authenticates whether the user is authorized to access a resource on the network. What are the main roles? Domain controllers control all domain access. It gives you authorization or you're not authorized to get resources. So we need to be sure that it is very important here to protect this with additional security mechanisms, okay? Such as firewalls, guys. What else can we use here besides firewalls in our domain controllers? What else can we use? I'm looking for an acronym. Does anybody know? Maybe IDS, an intrusion detection system. This can let us know and notify us. Maybe there's someone in your system, right? We can also do EDRs, endpoint detection and response mechanisms. These will stop an attacker in the track sometimes. You can write rules for these to help lock down our domain controller or our domain. So let's talk about the Active Directory hierarchy and the structure of this. So we have domains, we have trees, and we have forests. So in a domain, let's think about our .coms and our .orgs here. These are used to group objects together, or an organizational unit, as you see here. An organizational unit can consist of groups, users, machines, printers, really anything, so, VoIPs, things like this, right? So if you have multiple domains, now you have a tree, your tree. So it's multiple names to a tree. A tree consists of one or more domains, right? So the relationship between these two is called a trust. You have a parent domain and a child domain. Okay? So if you have multiple trees, now let's think of this in real life. If we're in the middle of a bunch of trees, oh, maybe we're in a forest, right? So the forest is a collection of trees. So we share a common schema and configuration here. It enables trust between all domains in the forest. Okay? This is trust considered as a method for securely transferring our user authentications between domains. There's two-way trust and there's one-way transitive trust. So two-way transitive trust is essentially domain A can talk to domain B or get resources and information from domain B, and domain B can as well talk to domain A, back and forth. A one-way trust is domain A can talk and get information from domain B, but domain B cannot get information or resources back to domain A. Okay. We're getting to the Kerberoast now. Kerberoast overview. Kerberoast is a protocol that allows users to authenticate on the network. Okay. It uses port 88 by default. So when we run an Nmap scan and we see 88, we're known and immediately know Kerberoast protocol, probably domain environment, domain control we're working with here. It's used to access a service on the network. The authentication process. There are 3 items when a user wants to access a service. It's the user, the service, and the authentication server, or the key distribution center. The KDC knows all the account's credentials. This protocol allows users to authenticate against the services without using a password over the network. It uses secret keys and a ticketing mechanism. Okay. We're going to talk about the tickets here. I'm going to go through this slide, but I want to show the diagram while I talk about this because it's easier to picture. Sorry, guys, let me get there. So what we have here is the key distribution center and the way these tickets work. So for the user, request the first ticket from the key distribution center. This is called the TGT, the Ticket Granting Ticket. So Kerberoast client's the user. We request a TGT from the key distribution center, and we receive that Ticket Granting Ticket. Okay. This is presented for all other requests through the KDC, through the key distribution center. Each time a user wants to access a service, they will present the Ticket Granting Ticket to the key distribution center, and the key distribution center validates the Ticket Granting Ticket and returns a TGS. So we get our TGT, we get our, and we ask for a resource. They say, here's your Ticket Granting Ticket, or your TGS. We receive that TGS, and then what we do is we present it to the service that we want to use it for. Okay? The service checks the validity of this ticket, this TGS ticket, and if all is well and the user's allowed to access this resource, it grants access to that service and checks the user rights access, and you get access to that resource. So we ask for a TGT, we get that. We present, the user now presents that TGT for a resource. It sends us a Ticket Granting Service ticket. Then we use that TGS to request a resource, and it says, yes, you're allowed to access this resource, here you go. So LDAP in its role in Kerberoast and attacks. So LDAP is the lightweight directory access protocol. It helps us find data about organizations and individuals. The goal is to store data and authenticate users in the LDAP directory. LDAP queries can retrieve user information, including service principal names. In our world, we call these SPINs for short. This is very important. Service principal names are unique identifiers for computer services in a Windows domain. It's used for Kerberoast authentication. SPINs are used for Kerberoast authentication. LDAP queries can find service principal names via the service principal name attribute. SPINs can be targeted for Kerberoast and attacks, and we can crack this service account passwords this way. Let's talk about Kerberoast and attacks, guys. The attack focus of this is to target service accounts to obtain and crack their password. The prerequisite for this is it requires prior authentication on the network. So we need a username and a password. And we can get this through, if we were doing an internal assessment with a client, they provide us with these low-level credentials to let us in, or through our OSINT and recon on the client, we could find this possibly and get in. Maybe through phishing attacks or something to that nature, right? The service principal names are added to Active Directory when a service is registered. This includes the machine name, the port, and the Active Directory account's password hash, often tied to user accounts. This is important. When we set up these services, they're often tied to user accounts. These are our primary targets. The reason why these are tied to user accounts is simply because it's easier for the administrator to set up. Okay. The encryption considerations are RC4 encryption is easy to crack. That's good for us, bad for them. And we do find organizations that are still using this and doing this. But we'll also run into more robust organizations that are using AES encryption and better. Let's talk about the tools we use to find these service principal names. This is PowerShell, this tool is called PowerView, and this is the syntax we use: set execution policy bypass to allow us to run scripts inside of PowerShell. We import the module of PowerView, and we can do a get domain user -spn or spins. And what this does is it will shoot out a whole bunch. If you're in a huge environment, you're going to get a whole bunch of these probably. You're going to have more than what you see here. It's going to be a lot of information. You can see where I have it in red. This is the same account name as the SQL service is the name. We can see that it has a service principal name set here, so we're immediately thinking maybe we can Kerberoast this user now, right? And there's some other interesting, there's another interesting information up here. Does anybody see it? Does anybody see it? You might not be able to see it because of the projector, but if you look here, you'll see where it says description. Do you see what this says in the description? It says my password is blah, 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 whatever. Now, administrators, they do this, and they don't think people can see this with this type of command, with this type of tool, but you can. For us, I at this point, now I know your password. I can log in if this is a legit user, and usually they are. So this is the way you use PowerView. You invoke Kerberoast, and what this has done is it's pulled down the SQL Service user, the service, and the hash. This is the hash that we can crack using Hashcat. Rubius is another PowerShell tool that we use. I like Rubius. Look how easy it is. It's simple. Rubius exe Kerberoast no wrap. Done. It pulls down the service name, the SAM account name, pulls down the hash for us that we can copy and paste into a file to therefore crack. Now, personally, I like to work out of Linux. It's this tool is Impacket Suite is a great suite of tools to use. If you guys don't know it, get to learn this. It has all kinds of great scripts in it that we use as hackers or cybersecurity experts. What I'm using here is Impacket Get User Spins, service principal names. hackcfl.local is the domain controller. Okay, j.adams is the user. Password1 is the password that either we got on an internal assessment that they gave us as a low-level user, or we found inside of the OSINT and recon that we did on the company, right? TAC DCIP is the domain controller IP address, and TAC request is how we can request this and pull down the hash. This is the another way to get that hash. We can also see that it has some more information here where there's password last set, there's last log on. This can tell us, have they ever reset their password? If they haven't, it's probably going to be easy to hack or crack, right? Kerberoast is another tool. This is for user enumeration here. So you can do a Kerberoast user enum on this with the user list, user txt file. What we can do here is if we found the naming convention of the company, we can feed it a list of users that we think might exist on their system and confirm their valid usernames. And with the same tool, we can do a password spray on this. So we've confirmed what users exist on the network, right? And now we can do a password spray, say, on that user list of inlane freight 2020 would be a password that we might think would work. And this would tell us that confirmed we have a valid user and password. So Kraken, here's how we can crack this with Hashcat. This is pasted into a file called hash.txt, the hash is. And it's hashcat attack A is for the attack method O. There's 1, 2, and 3, I believe, in the hashcat attack methods. Attack M is the mode. 13100 is the KRBTGT hash mode. You can find these hash modes online in a wiki list, or even looking at the help menu of Hashcat. Okay, and we're simply using rock UTXT here. Word list. All right, so demo time, guys. So let's go over here, open up. We'll show you PowerShell first, and then we'll go into Linux. Do, 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 do. Oh no, I forgot the password. Okay, so here's PowerShell. So the first thing we want to do is do a set execution policy bypass. Try to get this a little bigger for you guys. Nope, that's as big as I can get it. Dang it. So we want to do set execution policy bypass. And if we do a enter on this, this is asking us, it's basically asking us if we're allowed to run scripts inside of PowerShell. And what we can do here is we can say yes or yes to all. I'm going to go ahead and do an A, capital A for yes to all, so that I can run some scripts in here. The two scripts that I went over earlier is PowerView and Rubius, right here. As you can see, those have been uploaded onto the client, onto their desktop, or somehow we transferred these files over. And the next command is import module PowerView. We hit enter on this. This is importing that script, that PowerShell script for us, that tool, so we can use it. Now we can say, okay, I want to find all the users in the domain that have spins tied to them. So it's get-domain user space -spn. If I hit enter on this, you can see that, bam, it spit them out pretty quick, right? And right here is where we see the description, summer 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a little side thing I put in there to show you guys that admins do put descriptions in there, and sometimes it's passwords. We see that it is a service account. We see that it is a SAM account name of SQL service. And if we look at the members of, we will notice that this person, user, is a member of domain admins. So if we can get this password and crack it, we are now domain admin and we own their system, right? So at this point, we know there's a few users that have users SPNs to them, and we can see if they're Kerberoastable. And that's super easy with this PowerView script. It is invoke Kerberoast. We hit enter on that. And there we go. We got the SQL service SAM account name with the hash that we can crack inside of Hashcat. So we can do the same thing with Rubius here. And this is the Rubius command. We went over it. It's Rubius exe Kerberoast /no-wrap. This is another tool. This is a completely different tool than the PowerShell, the PowerView one that I was showing you guys. This is Rubius. And Rubius spits out some a little bit more information for us. It also gives us the hash, the SAM account name, the service principal name over here. Yep. So this is good. This is great news. We can go ahead and start feeding this into Hashcat and start cracking these. Let's go ahead and move over to Linux now. let's work out of Linux. So the first thing you want to do is let's try to find users like we did before. Let's try to see if there's any users. This Impacket Get Active Directory Users is another Impacket tool. This is, let me try to get this a little bigger for you guys. Is that better? Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. So Impacket Get AD Users, dash all is get all users on the network. hackcfl.local is the domain. And JAdams is the user, and password1 is the password. The TAC DCIP is the domain controller IP address, and the TAC DC host is the domain host, hackcfl.local. So if I hit enter on this is going to go pretty quick, and bam, look at there. We got some users, some valid users. It shows us a password last set, our last log on, never. This is not good. It's guessed, but not good. We also have KRBTGT, we have Joe Schmo, we have SQL service. Well, that's interesting, especially if I'm Kerberoasting someone. That's something I want to know. Service account, user tied to a user, right? We have John Adams or Jane Doe. So from here, let's go ahead and we'll run Impacket Get User Spins. What this is going to do is it's going to go through all those users, and see if any one of them have a service principal name set on them. HackCFL is the domain, JAdams is the username, password1 is the password, the IP, and we do a dash request. Hit enter on that. This is going to happen pretty quick. Popped up. There's our hash, just like you saw in PowerShell. Okay. These are 3 different tools, 3 different ways to do this attack. Right. This says, it's SQL service with the hash. So what can we do with this? We can crack it. I've already got it in a file. If I show you this file, that's the hash, copy and paste it into the file. Now we can feed it in the hashcat. Hashcat, okay, whoa, great, it cracked it. What's the password? Summer1234. Amazing. Now we know they're domain admin. Now, what can we do from here? If we have, excuse me, if we have access to their network RDP style, we can go like this. We can log out of this user. Log in as other user. What was that name? SQL service? That's the user. The password was Summer1234. Let's see if we can log in now. Holy cow, we logged in. Now let's pretend maybe this is a huge database, right? Maybe it's got credit cards in it, usernames in it. This is a SQL database, essentially. And we essentially own their system now. We own the domain admin. We are domain admin as this user. So if we go back to, we're going to talk about mitigations now. And mitigations. So what do we want? How do we slow this attack down or essentially stop it, right? We want to use longer and more complex passwords, right? Makes the cracking exponentially harder. Think of like a big long sentence. I went to Hackation 2024. Make it different characters and numbers. That's going to be harder to crack, right? We can use group managed service accounts here as well. It automates our password management and our rotation. Default is every 30 days. Okay. We want to also limit privileges. Avoid placing service accounts in a high privilege group like domain administrator. This SQL service user was also enterprise admin, which is even huge, even bigger than domain admin, right? Rotate our KRBTGT password. Rotate it every 180 days to invalidate old tickets, right? Review and remove unnecessary spins. If our client has service principal names or services that they're no longer using, okay, and it's been like a year or 2 years and it's still on that network, let's remove it. We don't need it no more. They don't need it no more, right? Monitor activity. Watch for suspicious LDAP queries and activities like your service principal name attribute that we talked about, okay? Let's monitor for that. We can write rules for that using the EDRs and the IDSs, okay? Implement AES encryption or better. This will help us mitigate. Here's some links, the PowerView link, the Rubius, the MPacket suite, Kerberoast, and our new KRBTGT keys, PowerShell script to rotate those keys for us, right? And a big thank you to Hackation, all our amazing cybersecurity groups here. Big thanks to rcats.dev. It is a collaboration me and my boys worked on. It's essentially a red teaming quick reference guide to help you with red teaming. Thank you to Nave Security LLC and Hire Me. Here are my credentials: Fromaster at Proton Mail and LinkedIn Fromaster. Thank you guys. Any questions? No questions? Okay.